Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
This is Bloomberg Businessweek with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
Well, the world of entertainment and content back on our radar today. This as a bidding war for Paramount Global may be in the making, as Seagram heir Edgar Bronfman Jr. is said to be close to making an offer for Paramount Global, setting off that bidding war for the film and TV company that owns CBS and MTV. This is according to a Bloomberg exclusive. You can read all the deals. Just head to Bloomberg.com or check it out on the Bloomberg terminal. Well, our next guest is definitely in the content and entertainment space. Let's get to Bill O'Dowd. He is the CEO of the microcap $16 million market cap company. It's an entertainment, marketing, and content production company, and it is known as Dolphin Entertainment. He joins us from Miami. Bill, good to be talking with you. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for having me on.
Well, it's great to have you here. Let's start with kind of the nuts and bolts, if we may. Just reported earnings this week. Your release said record second quarter revenue. Remind our world, the Bloomberg world, the investing world, about what your company does and the latest update and the outlook for your business.
Sure. Well, thank you for that. Well, we do three things all in one. We started as a production company, film and TV producers, and we still do that, having just released The Blue Angels with IMAX this spring. Mm-hmm. Then we started assembling a best-in-class PR and marketing special events, influencer marketing companies around entertainment. And then we started investing in things that we could market, like consumer products. So we're very excited for that.
All right, so talk to us about the quarter and the business. Look back, look forward in terms of, we mentioned the headline in terms of second quarter revenue, specifically in terms of a record. That's according to you guys. Talk to us about a little bit of the business and where the growth is coming from, because you mentioned like kind of these three areas. So where's the growth been? Where's it going?
Sure. Yeah, well, we've been blessed with a lot of organic growth. The companies work together, create synergy between, creating campaigns for motion pictures or consumer products that may want both PR and influencer marketing, as an example, or event marketing with influencer, let's say. And in addition, we're going back into production. The Blue Angels was a big hit for us in partnership with IMAX, and that was certainly part of the revenue increase as well.
Well, it's interesting. Well, and that IMAX partnership, how much more can you leverage out of it, right? Like, this is something, it sounds like, that's got some legs, and I'm curious where you take it.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. It's a multi-year partnership. We're used to doing that with Dolphin. We were partners with Nickelodeon for years and years and in making children's content, and have had 50-50 partnerships in the past with Warner's or others. So we hope to be doing documentaries with IMAX for years to come. It's certainly a great partner to do documentaries with, because you can do these big spectacle documentaries, docbusters as we call them, that really deserve to be seen on the big screen, like the Blue Angels.
Yeah, and we, the press release that you guys put out, it talked about, debuting as #1 on Prime Video over the Memorial Day holiday. It grossed over $2 million at the box office, IMAX, and that included a top 10 debut with about $1.4 million in its opening weekend. What did you call it? Docbusters?
That's right. Yeah.
So where else do you go with, do you just continue to do more of that? And how expensive is it to do and build out that content?
Well, documentaries are less expensive than the bigger features, of course. So they typically range in the $3 to $5 million range, let's say, for a theatrical. Obviously, you can make them for less or more. And we do think there's an opening to do one or two of those a year. They certainly program well. There are gaps in the year where there wouldn't be studio content available or fresh studio content to put into IMAX. And also, we think our partnership is expanding into live streaming as well. We could do music specials, Broadway specials, comedy specials, one night only type things that would really juice, we hope, the box office, especially midweek.
When do you start to do something like that, or what's involved in getting into that area more aggressively?
We hope to launch that in the first quarter of next year, and IMAX has already been doing some of that themselves, and it's a natural extension of our partnership to go into that content together.
What's the challenge in all of this? Because I do feel like, Bill, I think it's safe to say, we cover this a lot at Bloomberg, that, there's a lot of places to view content. There's a lot of content creators, but there's a lot of people vying for that content. So what's the stuff that really you think moves the needle in terms of engaging with the consumer? Because I know I get to a point where I'm just overwhelmed and I'm done and I pick up a book and read. But I just wonder, right? You've got to kind of weed through a lot of stuff.
You sure do, and I like reading too, so I understand completely. And I think a lot of people try and thread the needle by thinking about what would work best in which type of delivery. When you talk something like an IMAX system, then and network, then you want that spectacle, something that warrants people coming out and spending the money. On the smaller screen and the streaming wars, you're seeing a lot of people look for different types of content. And if you think about the last 10 years, the rise of documentaries or true crime, especially on the small screen, has really exploded.
What about, you mentioned live sports, Broadway comedy, or you mentioned Broadway comedy. What about sports in terms of live streaming? Or is that just too expensive, already crowded? The big boys, the big guys are in it.
I think certainly sporting events, it's probably crowded. And those rights only seem to be going up and up, right?
Yeah.
But we do like sports content generally quite a bit. And you're seeing a lot of opportunity this year around women's sports. And that's an area that we really like. We think female athletes have been underserved tremendously. And with our influencer marketing companies, we think we could expand and bring brand sponsorship deals and just generally income to female athletes from speaking engagements, et cetera.
You mentioned the influencers, and I thought that was really interesting. I know you've got a relationship with Glow Lab. You are thinking about the younger audience. First of all, a couple things. What is your target audience, or you don't care? You want to go all over the kind of age spectrum?
I think with influencer, you can broaden out. We started with the core, which, female 25 to 44, let's say, beauty, wellness, fashion products. But the thing about influencer marketing, it's grown double digits year over year. Some years, I think, triple digits, simply because there is no one demo anymore.
Yeah.
And the marriage of influencer with sports is, it was going to come anyway, but it certainly accelerated 3 years ago with the Supreme Court ruling, name, image, likeness for college athletes. And now this generation are influencers, this generation of athletes, right? You could just see Simone Biles taking selfies at the Olympics or get ready with me videos at the Olympics. And that if you're talking athletes 15 to 25, they're digital natives for sure.
Well, when you think about the work with influencers, as you said, you also want to be, creating the products that they're involved in, or talk to us about how you kind of drill down into that relationship, which I would assume then opens up even another revenue stream for you guys.
It sure does. Thank you. Yeah, it's really marrying a couple of different aspects of our business. We financed and produced television and film for 20 years prior to going public. We're used to project finance. And then when you marry that with the rise of social media and influencer marketing, then it's really just applying project finance to consumer product. We could develop and bring to market consumer products where our form of marketing, especially in entertainment, will give us a better chance of success. So when you think about beauty, cosmetics, as an example, those are products where influencers and celebrities have long influenced success. And so we think there are certain product categories like alcohol where the marketing of the product is as important as the manufacturing and the distribution itself.
But it'd be great if you get a piece of both, right? Going forward?
That's right. That's right.
Hey, Bill, one thing I did want to ask you, when we were talking a little bit of nuts and bolts in terms of the quarter, you are a microcap company. We don't, on Bloomberg, talk a lot to companies that are below $1. And I am curious what you get from investors. Stock's down about 60% year to date. What do you hear from your investors, and what are your aspirations? Is there something about, I understand sometimes we start small, we get bigger. What are your aspirations for this company? And what do you hear from your investors?
Sure. Yeah, no. Well, the microcap environment as a whole, as I'm sure you know, Carol, had a tough year.
Yep.
We've posted record quarterly revenue 3 quarters in a row, so and positive adjusted operating income. So we're hopeful and confident that the will be rewarded in the market, especially as a microcap, doing real revenue with real business.
So is it just investors saying, listen, we get it, it's the environment, or what do they want to know about your business in particular? What are the questions you get most from investors?
Yeah, I'd say it's mostly about the environment. Numbers don't lie in terms of what we're doing in revenue and adjusted operating income, and we're beating our own projections, including the analyst projections out there. So there's a sense of frustration with some that they just wish that we weren't being lumped in with some of the others, but we just have to stay the course. I mean, a microcap that's doing $50 million in revenue and a $16 million market cap, you'd like to believe that you're about to pop back.
When you look at the environment, and I think it's, Bill, it's an interesting one. We're very focused on, what's going on in terms of Fed policy, what's going on in terms of economic data. We talked a lot by the end of the week about a soft landing, and it looks like things are, kind of working out fairly well. Not all Americans certainly feel that. We talk a lot about the differences between the top and the bottom in terms of the economic strata. Having said that, when you look at the environment, you're doing deals, you're doing different things. How do you describe the U.S. economy right now?
Well, we're hopeful for the rate cuts. Just I think, like a lot of people, will free up cash and discretionary investment into the microcap world, small cap world generally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you hear a lot of people talk about that. We're not as susceptible to some other companies in terms of the interest rates. We've fixed ours in commercial paper already, so we feel good about our position. But certainly, lower interest rates or lower Fed rate, would certainly benefit the microcap world for sure.
All right. Yeah. No, we talked about that actually earlier in terms of small caps and the importance of economic growth as well as in terms of the interest rate environment. Bigger, broader picture. We've spent a lot of time talking about kind of what happens to some of the big media players. We talk about streaming so much. You are in the content business. What do you make of all of what's going on in the streaming world? It's a lot of competition for all of our eyeballs, and there are obviously some very clear winners and some that are having a tougher time.
Yeah, and we're blessed where our film and television PR firm, 42 West, works with almost every major streamer out there, and we promote shows on so many different platforms, from Netflix to Amazon to Hulu and Paramount Plus, et cetera. So we see a lot of them contracting some in terms of investment, as I'm sure you've talked about quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But the sheer volume of programming the last few years has been overwhelming to a lot of consumers, I think, and probably this is for the best.
And so you don't care kind of who wins because you get to work with them all, right? Is that fair to say? But I wonder, do you think that there will be, because you do see some that might be struggling or slowing down a little bit, that there'll be some kind of shakeout?
There has to be. One would think, and certainly the conversations out there about M&A among some of even the bigger studios, right, isn't idle speculation. So there'll be a right sizing of the ship, I think, and the industry hopefully will be stronger for it.
So what's kind of interesting when you look at the content and media world and you look out, we talked a little bit earlier about influencers and your work with Glow Lab, and it is interesting in a week where, again, Warren Buffett, we saw his stake in Ulta Beauty. We talked about it through the pandemic and out of the pandemic, that whether it was Sephora or some of the other names that, people spend. It's not just cosmetics, it's all kinds of beauty and, skincare and so on and so forth, that spending kind of continues. You guys also work with Rachel Ray, so chefs are something that's certainly on your radar. When you think about growth areas for content, if you had to whittle it down to one thing, what would it be? There's also AI, right? So the creation of whatever that content will be.
Yeah, and AI is unstoppable, right?
Yeah.
We take a positive spin on it, certainly. But, I think when you take a step back and you think the world before and after the rise of social media, you can make a case that what it's done through the explosion of what used to be, remember when it was mommy bloggers and then it became influencers and now it's creators. you could make an argument that's democratized the ability to launch certain types of consumer products. Early in my career, you would need, tens of millions of dollars of paid media to just get awareness of the U.S. consumer. Today, you've got influencers launching their own skincare products and selling the companies 3 years later for over $300 million, as Susan Yara and Glow Lab did with Naturium to Elf Beauty. So, that's unfathomable, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. So we see a lot of potential using influencer marketing and PR, earned media generally, to launch and content on those channels to be able to drive traffic. That's on the consumer product side. Of course, on the pure content side, I think it raised a lot of eyebrows in the last week or two, that on television sets, YouTube gets more viewing than Netflix. And I think that raised a lot of awareness, outside of our world, just how big social media is to all demographics and not just, the YA.
Listen, right now, you are on YouTube. We don't get to see your face right now. You're on the phone, but if you were on Zoom and so on and so forth, I mean, right now, simulcast on radio, we're on YouTube, and we're on our streaming service. And then earlier, we're also on television. So it's just interesting, like the different venues. I watch a lot of YouTube channels. There's some interesting stuff, very niche programming. If you had to pick one, whether YouTube, TikTok, or some kind of delivery service that you think is really going to be or continue to be the most influential, and just got about 20 seconds, what would it be?
YouTube.
Hands down. Hands down.
Hands down. It can do both short and long form, and it's already got the mass.
All right. Great stuff, as always. Listen, thank you so much, Bill O'Dowd. He's founder and chief executive officer of Dolphin Entertainment, joining us on this Friday in Miami.